A few days ago, the State of the Environment report was released, and it caused a lot of drama. This is an independent report written by experts every 5 years to assess the health of our natural environment. But what got people angry wasn't just the contents of the report, but rather the government's delay in releasing the report itself. Here's a quick summary. Susan Lee, the former Liberal Party Environment Minister, received the report in 2021, but refused to release it to the public prior to the 2022 federal election. Once the Labor government came in, Tanya Plibersek, the new Environment Minister, released the report, which as suspected, painted a pretty bad picture of the environment.
Today, as part of my statutory duty as Minister, I am publicly releasing the 2021 State of the Environment report.
There's been a lot of outrage, and articles like this one by Junkie claim that the report was required to be released within 15 days of receipt, and so it's been withheld. As we'll see, that's not actually how it works. Don't get me wrong, I'm not defending Susan Lee, who is now the Deputy Leader of the Liberals, but in this video I want to run through what actually happened and what can be done about it. The 2021 State of the Environment report is well over 2,000 pages long, and I've put the link in the description if you want to have a look. It's written by numerous independent scientists and environmental experts, and looks at how the natural environment is faring in different themes, like air quality, biodiversity, our oceans, and so on. Just from skimming the overview, you read that overall the state and trend of the environment of Australia are poor and deteriorating. If you go into specifics and look at biodiversity, for example, the report says that over the past 2 centuries, Australia has lost more mammal species than any other continent, and continues to have one of the highest rates of species decline. It's not good news. Now, the reason why this report is created in the first place is because it's a requirement under Commonwealth law. There's a section in that piece of legislation which says that the Minister must cause a report on the Australian environment to be prepared every 5 years. And what we found through questioning by the Senate was that in December 2021, the report was completed as required and given to then Minister Susan Lee. But then the government went all quiet, probably because they knew that the report would show that all their talk in Parliament was fluff.
We are custodians of an incredible biodiversity that has been threatened since white and European settlement 200 years ago, and we have got amazing ecosystems, and we are acting to protect them.
With months passing and no sign of the report being released, various senators started questioning the Morrison government, and there weren't many answers.
Senator Hume, when will the Minister release the report?
I'll take that on notice, Senator. I don't know.
Well, my question to you was if an election is called on the weekend.
I couldn't. I think that's speculation.
It's a difficult question.
Well, it's a procedural question. If an election is called prior to the release of the report, will the community get to see the report before the election?
I can't answer that question, but I will take it on notice for you.
You don't know?
I don't know, and I'll take it
so
on notice.
So procedurally you think that it might be possible?
I don't know the answer to a procedural question. I'll have to take it on notice.
Is there anything stopping the Minister for the Environment from releasing the report today?
Not that I'm aware of, but I'm happy to take that question on notice.
The Minister doesn't have to wait till the last possible day.
She can table it at any point.
She can table it today. Minister, why won't she table it today?
Well, I think
because it's within the statutory period and it's within her purview to table it at a time that suits her.
That suits her?
Well, that suits her, yes.
All those times you heard the phrase, "I'll take that on notice," meant that the coalition would provide a written response later on, but the responses all said the same thing. This question was directed at the senator representing the former Minister for the Environment, and therefore the department is unable to respond. I'm not sure how that's an acceptable response. So let's take a step back and look at what the legislative timeframes are for releasing the report. The same law we were looking at before says the Minister must cause a copy of the report to be released within 15 sitting days after receiving the report. This is the confusion. 15 sitting days is not the same as 15 calendar days. A sitting day is a day when the House of Representatives meets in Parliament House. And you might be surprised at how little that actually happens. The 2022 parliamentary sitting calendar shows that there were only 10 sitting days from the start of the year up until the election was called. So technically, there hadn't been 15 sitting days to require the release of the report before the election. Susan Lee eventually went on Sky News to address this.
Susan, last week a report into the state of the environment was released. Most sectors shown to be in deteriorating condition. As former Environment Minister, why did you sit on it and not release it before the election?
Well, that's a Labor Party narrative. I received the report, I commissioned the report, appointed the authors, and it was well and truly within the statutory timeframes and guidelines, and not unusual at all in terms of the timing of its release, which was required 14 sitting days after being tabled.
That's not the case. Instead, the law says the report needs to be released within 15 sitting days, but there was nothing stopping the minister from releasing the report earlier. That seems to have been what happened with the previous report, that was released in early March of 2017. The difference then was that the Liberal government didn't have an upcoming election and so didn't have to worry about bad press. If facts don't matter when you're in government, they sure don't matter when you're in opposition. While it was within the legal requirements, not releasing the report was still, in my view, the wrong thing to do. And that's simply because voters were going to an election without having potentially relevant information at hand. When the report was finally released, Labor had this to say.
This report was delivered to the government last year. The previous minister, Susan Lee, received it before Christmas but chose to keep it hidden, locked away until after the federal election. And when you read it, you'll know why.
Blasting the previous government is one thing, but what should be happening is a simple change to the legislation to tighten up the reporting requirements. They could make it so that there's a 30-day time limit to release the report, so governments can't play political games with information that should be public. There's also a wider issue here. We constantly hear about reports that are prepared by the government at taxpayers' expense that never get released to the public. There's this one about sports rorts, and this one about Australia Post. In general, if the taxpayer funds a report, then the taxpayer should be able to read it. It's not good enough for the new government to simply behave better. It needs to figure out a way to put a framework in place so that all future governments are held to the same standard. This shouldn't be a hard issue to solve, but the question is, will anyone bother? Thanks for watching. If you want to help me make more content, please consider checking out my Patreon page, links in the description.